Everyone. Now we know how important it is to feel prepared for your exams, which is why we've really carefully analysed past trends and patterns to create our GCSE Synergy papers for 2025. So this year we're including free video walkthroughs alongside question papers and exam style mark schemes. These walkthroughs will show you exactly how to interpret questions and structure your answers to meet examiner expectations, helping you maximise your marks. So while our predictions are based on careful analysis, remember to revise everything to be fully prepared for your exams. In this video, we're covering papers 1 to 4, so feel free to skip to the bit that is relevant to you at this particular moment. You can use the timestamps to do that, so please feel free to skip to what's relevant for you. So first up, we have paper 1, Life and Environmental Sciences. We think that you should revise cells, including the differences between animal and plant cells, organelles and specialised cells. Cells are the fundamental building blocks of all living things, and understanding the differences between animal and plant cells is crucial. Unlike animal cells, plant cells have a cell wall, chloroplast, and a permanent vacuole. Each organelle within a cell has a specific function. The nucleus controls the cell and contains DNA. Mitochondria are responsible for releasing energy through respiration. Ribosomes make proteins, and chloroplasts contain chlorophyll to absorb light for photosynthesis. Specialised cells also play a key role in biological systems. So, for example, sperm cells have a tail to aid movement and a high number of mitochondria for energy. Nerve cells are long and branched to efficiently transmit signals, while root hair cells have a large surface area to absorb water. Next, we have the human circulatory system. The circulatory system ensures that oxygen and nutrients are transported throughout the body. The heart functions as a powerful pump working alongside a network of blood vessels. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart with their thick walls, while veins transport deoxygenated blood back, equipped with valves to prevent backflow. Capillaries, the smallest blood vessels, facilitate gas exchange due to their thin walls. The blood itself is composed of various components that each serve an essential function. Red blood cells transport oxygen using hemoglobin. White blood cells defend the body against infection. Platelets help in blood clotting, and plasma carries nutrients, hormones, and waste products. Next, revise solids, liquids, and gases. Know that in solids, particles are close together and vibrate in place. In liquids, particles can move past each other and take the shape of the container. And in gases, particles move quickly and freely. Make sure you revise changes of state here too, of course, and know the density formula, which is density equals mass divided by volume. Next, here, revise cancer and non-communicable diseases. Know that cancer is caused by uncontrolled cell growth and division. Benign tumours don't spread, malignant tumours are cancerous and can spread. Be aware of risk factors for non-communicable diseases too, like smoking, which can cause lung cancer and heart disease. For example, obesity can lead to type 2 diabetes, and heart disease and alcohol can lead to liver disease. We also suggest looking into the electromagnetic spectrum, which consists of a range of waves with different wavelengths and applications. Radio waves, the longest in the spectrum, are used for communication. Microwaves play a role in cooking and satellite signals, while infrared is used in remote controls and thermal imaging. Ultraviolet radiation has applications in sunbeds and sterilising water. X-rays allow medical professionals to see inside the body, and gamma rays are used in cancer treatment. Brush up on the Earth's atmosphere too, which has evolved over time. Initially, it contained large amounts of carbon dioxide and no oxygen. As plants began to photosynthesize, oxygen levels increased and carbon dioxide decreased, being stored in fossil fuels, oceans, and rocks. Today, the atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and a small percentage of other gases, including carbon dioxide and argon. Do also brush up on hormones in the menstrual cycle, with key hormones including FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, which matures the egg in the ovary, LH, which triggers ovulation, and estrogen and progesterone, which control the cycle and maintain uterus lining. With that, consider contraception too. Hormonal methods of contraception include the pill, implant, and injection, which stop ovulation, and an IUD or a coil, which prevents fertilization. Barrier methods include condoms, which prevent sperm reaching the egg, and surgical methods include sterilisation, which is permanent. Now, nearly there, look into the structure of the atom. Key parts of the atom include protons, which are positive, found in the nucleus, neutrons, which are neutral, found in the nucleus also, and electrons, which are negative, found in the shells around the nucleus. Here, also know that with electron shells, the first shell holds up to 2 electrons, the second shell holds up to 8 electrons, and the third shell holds up to 8 electrons too. Finally, for paper 1, look into the reflex arc, which is a fast automatic response to protect the body. The pathway is as follows: stimulus, receptor, sensory neuron, relay neuron, motor neuron, effector, and then response. An example would be pulling your hand away from something hot. Now, those are our paper 1 predicted topics. Let's now move on to paper 2. So, for paper 2, life and environmental sciences, we think you should revise blood cells. Blood cells perform vital roles in the body. Red blood cells, which lack a nucleus to maximise space, transport oxygen using haemoglobin. White blood cells provide immunity by engulfing pathogens and producing antibodies. Platelets assist in blood clotting, preventing excessive bleeding, while plasma carries essential nutrients, hormones, and waste products like carbon dioxide and urea. Next up, look into the movement of substances in and out of the blood, which occurs through 3 key processes. Diffusion allows molecules to move from high to low concentration, such as oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange in the lungs. Osmosis facilitates the movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane, and active transport enables molecules to move against the concentration gradient, which is essential in processes like glucose absorption in the intestines. Next, we have the osmosis practical. This practical investigates osmosis in potato cells. The steps are as follows. First, cut the potato into equal sized pieces, then place these pieces into different sugar solutions ranging from pure water to highly concentrated sugar solutions. Measure the change in mass of the potato pieces to determine whether water has entered or left the cells. The results are straightforward. An increase in mass means water moved into the cells. This indicates a hypotonic solution. A decrease in mass means water moved out of the cells. This indicates a hypertonic solution. Key variables that must be controlled throughout this practical include temperature, time, and the volume of the solution. Next, we have the field investigations practical. This involves using quadrats and transects to estimate population sizes and study the distribution of organisms. Starting with quadrats, place quadrats randomly in a field and count the organisms inside each one. Repeat this process several times and calculate an average to ensure accurate results. Now for transects, lay out a tape measure in a straight line across a habitat, then place quadrats at regular intervals along the line to observe how the population changes across different parts of the area. Moving on to reaction time, there are a couple of ways to measure reaction time. One method is the ruler drop test. A partner drops a ruler and you measure the time it takes to catch it. Another method uses computer-based tests, which are more accurate and help remove human error. Several factors can affect reaction time. Caffeine tends to reduce reaction time, making reactions quicker. On the other hand, tiredness and distractions can increase reaction time, making you slower to respond. Okay, next revise blood glucose, which is regulated by the pancreas using 2 hormones. Insulin lowers blood sugar and glucagon raises blood sugar. This links to diabetes, which comes in 2 main types. Type 1 is where the body doesn't produce insulin. This is treated with insulin injections. And then type 2, diabetes, is linked to obesity, and it occurs when the body's cells don't respond to insulin. And this is managed through diet and exercise. Now then we have photosynthesis, which is fundamental for plant life. In this process, carbon dioxide and water react to produce glucose and oxygen. The reaction takes place in the chloroplasts where chlorophyll absorbs sunlight. Several factors influence the rate of photosynthesis, including light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, and temperature. Enzymes play a key role, and if temperature rises too high, they can denature, halting the process. Let's brush up on radioactivity. There are 3 types of radiation to know. Alpha particles are big and slow, and they can be stopped by just a sheet of paper. Beta particles are faster and need aluminium to stop them, and gamma rays are very fast and can only be stopped by thick lead. A key concept here as well is half-life. This is the time it takes for half of a radioactive substance to decay. And just finally here, radioactivity has several practical uses. One is in medical traces, which often use gamma radiation. Another is radiotherapy, where radiation is used to treat cancer. Next, we have inheritance. So look at genes, chromosomes, and DNA. DNA contains genes and these control our traits. Alleles are different versions of a gene. Some are dominant and some are recessive. To predict how traits are passed on, we use Punnett squares. They help us understand inheritance patterns. A dominant allele only needs one copy to be expressed. A recessive allele needs two copies to be expressed. And then finally, for paper 2, let's move on to communicable diseases. These are diseases caused by pathogens, which include bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protists. Some key examples are bacteria, like Salmonella, which cause food poisoning, viruses such as measles and HIV, fungi like athlete's foot, and protists, for example, malaria. Now, to prevent infection, there are a few key strategies: vaccination, regular hand washing, and using antibiotics. But these are only for bacterial infections. Okay, those are our paper 2 predicted topics. Of course, don't forget these are just predictions, so don't forget to check out your kind of extra revision if that is needed. So these are our paper 3 physical sciences predictions for 2025. So first, in no particular order, let's start with energy. Energy can be sourced from both renewable and non-renewable materials. Renewable sources such as wind, solar, hydroelectric, geothermal, and biofuels are sustainable and environmentally friendly, but can be unreliable depending on conditions. Non-renewable sources like coal, oil, natural gas, and nuclear power provide a consistent energy supply, but contribute to pollution and climate change. Next, look into bonding and structure. There are 3 main types of bonding. Ionic bonding happens between metals and non-metals. Electrons are transferred, creating strong electrostatic forces between the ions. Covalent bonding occurs between non-metals where electrons are shared. Examples include water and oxygen. And then metallic bonding is found in metals where a sea of delocalized electrons allows for good electrical conductivity. Now let's look at structure and properties. Giant ionic structures have high melting points and they only conduct electricity when molten or dissolved. Then simple covalent molecules have low melting points and don't conduct electricity. And finally here, giant covalent structures like diamond and graphite also have high melting points due to their strong bonds. Next we have crude oil. Crude oil is a mixture of hydrocarbons, mainly alkanes. We use fractional distillation to separate crude oil into fractions. This process relies on boiling points. Small molecules have lower boiling points and are more flammable, whereas bigger molecules have higher boiling points and are more viscous, meaning they flow less easily. We then have organic chemistry. Know that alkanes follow the formula CnH2n plus 2. They have single bonds and are saturated, and also alkenes follow the formula CnH2n. They contain double bonds and are unsaturated. In complete combustion, a hydrocarbon reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. Here, another key process is cracking. This involves breaking down long hydrocarbons into smaller, more useful ones. Okay, moving on to stopping distances. When it comes to motion, stopping distance is a crucial concept that combines thinking distance and braking distance. Thinking distance depends on factors such as speed, tiredness, alcohol consumption, and distractions, while braking distance is affected by road conditions, vehicle speed, and the state of tyres and brakes. Next, brush up on terminal velocity. You need to know what happens when a falling object reaches terminal velocity. At first, the weight of the object is greater than the air resistance, so the object accelerates. As the object speeds up, air resistance increases. Eventually, the object reaches a point where the air resistance equals the weight. At this stage, the forces are balanced and the object falls at a constant speed. This is known as terminal velocity. We then have acids and alkalis, which are defined by the pH scale. Acids, which have a pH of 0 to 6, include substances like hydrochloric acid. Neutral substances, such as pure water, have a pH of 7. Alkalis, which range from pH 8 to 14, include substances like sodium hydroxide. Acids and bases react to form salts and water, and indicators such as litmus paper and universal indicators are used to determine pH levels. Now next we have the reactivity series. The reactivity series ranks metals from most to least reactive. The order is potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, copper, then gold. When metals react with acids, more reactive metals fizz more violently. For example, magnesium reacts with hydrochloric acid to form magnesium chloride and hydrogen. There are also displacement reactions to consider. In these, a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive one from its compound. Okay, next we have life cycle assessments or LCAs. These are used to assess the environmental impact of a product across different stages of its life. We have raw material extraction, which includes mining, drilling, and the energy used. There's manufacturing and processing, which often involves pollution from factories. Then there's usage, looking at how much energy the product uses and how much waste it produces during use. And finally, disposal could mean landfill, recycling, or natural decomposition. A key part of LCAs is sustainability, looking at whether the materials are reused or recycled. Okay, nearly there. For paper 3, we're moving on to velocity time graphs. These graphs tell us a lot about motion. Here's what the gradient means. A steeper gradient shows a greater acceleration. A flat line means the object is moving at a constant speed. A line sloping downwards indicates deceleration. To calculate acceleration, use the formula acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. And to calculate distance travelled, you look at the area under the graph. That gives you the distance. Now finally, let's explore carbon allotropes. These are different forms of carbon with different properties. Diamond is hard, forms a giant covalent structure, and doesn't conduct electricity. Graphite has layers that slide easily and conducts electricity thanks to delocalized electrons. Graphene is a single layer of graphite. It's super strong and an excellent conductor. And finally, fullerenes are hollow molecules such as nanotubes and are used in drug delivery. Okay, those are all of our paper 3 topics. Make sure to brush up on anything else you're not comfortable with, of course. So let's move on to paper 4. Okay, last of all, we have our paper 4 physical sciences predicted topics. Don't forget to revise absolutely everything because these are, of course, just predictions. Keep saying that. But without further ado, let's start with combustion. So combustion is an important chemical reaction that occurs when a fuel reacts with oxygen. In complete combustion, fuel combines with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water, releasing energy. Incomplete combustion, which occurs when there is limited oxygen, produces carbon monoxide and salt. Carbon monoxide is particularly dangerous as it reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Here, you should also know that burning fossil fuels also releases sulfur dioxide, which contributes to acid rain and climate change. Next, brush up on energy profiles. There are 2 types of reactions. Exothermic reactions release heat, an example is combustion, and then endothermic reactions absorb heat like photosynthesis. When looking at energy profile diagrams, you'll see the activation energy. This is the energy needed to start the reaction. Catalysts help by lowering the activation energy, which speeds up the reaction. Now, for potential energy, this is energy that's stored due to an object's position or condition. There are 2 main types: gravitational potential energy, energy stored because of height, and elastic potential energy stored in stretched or compressed objects. The formula for gravitational potential energy is GPE equals mass times gravity times height. Next is Hooke's law. This law states that the force applied is proportional to the extension as long as the material hasn't reached its elastic limit. The formula is force measured in newtons equals the spring constant in newtons per meter multiplied by the extension in meters. In the practical, you add weights to a spring and measure the extension. Then you plot a force versus extension graph, which should give a straight line. Let's move on to rates of reaction and catalysts. Several factors affect the rate of a reaction. Temperature. Higher temperatures mean faster reactions because particles collide more often and with more energy. Concentration. More particles in the same space leads to more collisions. Surface area. Smaller pieces react faster due to more exposed area. And finally, catalysts, which speed up reactions without being used up. Catalysts work by lowering the activation energy and providing an alternative reaction pathway. Next, the electrolysis of aluminium. Electrolysis is needed because aluminium is very reactive. It can't be extracted by reduction alone. This is the process. Aluminium oxide is melted in cryolite to lower the melting point. At the cathode, which is the negative electrode, aluminium ions gain electrons and aluminium metal is formed. At the anode, which is the positive electrode, oxide ions, O2 minus, lose electrons and oxygen gas is produced. A problem with this process is that the oxygen reacts with the carbon anode, producing carbon dioxide, which means the anodes wear out over time. Now let's talk about circuits. Here are some key components. A battery or cell provides voltage, a resistor limits current, and a variable resistor allows you to change resistance. According to Ohm's law, voltage equals current times resistance. Now, in series circuits, the current is the same throughout and voltage is shared. In parallel circuits, the voltage is the same across each branch and the current splits between them. Now, on to electromagnets. To make an electromagnet stronger, you can add more coils, increase the current, or use an iron core. Electromagnets are used in many places, including electric bells, MRI scanners, and scrapyard magnets. And finally, our very last predicted topic is Le Chatelier's principle. This principle states that if a system in equilibrium is disturbed, it will shift to oppose the change. For example, increasing temperature shifts the equilibrium to the endothermic side, increasing pressure shifts it to the side with fewer gas molecules, and then increasing the concentration of reactants results in the formation of more products. Okay, those are all of our predicted topics for all of your papers. We really hope they help. Don't forget these topics have been selected based on past exam trends, but it is essential to revise everything. Practicing past papers as well as our predicted papers will help you familiarise yourself with different question styles and improve your exam technique. For additional support, our masterclasses provide revision boosters and live exam prep sessions designed to build confidence and enhance understanding. Now, most importantly, exams are important, but they don't define your worth. Remember to take breaks, eat well, and believe in yourself. Best of luck in your GCSE exams.